what are the top mistakes out there?
I think, well, our clients, they hire us, so that's a really good way
there.
of avoiding mistakes.
Hey there, and welcome to yet another episode of the World of Presentations podcast, brought to you by us at Presentation Agency 356 Labs. I'm Boris, the founder of the company and your host for this episode. And today we have another founder from the same industry and someone who is joining us for Present to Succeed as one of our speakers. Say hi to Paul van Hattem from the award-winning presentation agency, Mr. Prezident. They are located in Amsterdam, right, Paul?
That's correct.
Absolutely, and they're doing some stunning presentation work. So, Paul, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
So, before we start, Mr. President, the company, before we talk about it, before we discuss what are you seeing on the market and all of that stuff, and obviously your conference session, tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's go there first.
Sure. Yeah. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's always great to meet and talk to fellow presentation enthusiasts. Mr. President is a presentation company. It's our team of 15 presentation designers, developers, and story experts. And we get up in the morning because we love helping people and organizations to achieve more with presentations. That's what we do. And it ranges from slide design to training, presentation software implementation, and ways to improve efficiency in creating presentations for our clients as well.
Sounds cool. What are you doing on the software end, by the way?
Sorry?
What are you doing on the software end? You said software implementation. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so what we see in the market is that when we are creating presentations and training as well, that there's still a gap in the quality of presentations that companies are able to create themselves. And what we do is we advise them on presentation software to use, but also other software to use to collect more data or to create presentations more easily or to create templates and build upon that. So it's more of an advice role that we take on the software end as well.
Got it. I interrupted you. You were about to say something else. Sorry for that one. So let's go ahead.
No problem. No. So we're based in Amsterdam. That's where the company was founded in 2011. So this year it's our 10-year anniversary, and we also have a small branch office in New York as well. We have clients in over 40 countries, and most of our clients you've heard of. We've worked for Nike, PwC, the United Nations, but also some very cool companies you might have never heard of that have the ambition to get more out of their presentations. And that's always really cool to learn new markets and new brands that we never thought of existed.
Yeah. That is
the name is Mr. President. Maybe that's also good to explain, is that it was originated in 2011 when we started out as one of the first Prezi agencies. So that hence is the name, and that grew out to be a full service company, and everything there is to do with presentations.
Brilliant. A lot of things, a lot of great companies that you're working for. Obviously, a lot of presentations go through the hands of your team. What are you seeing people do wrong most of the times? Like those top brands, even up until today, 2021, currently we're recording this in January 2021. What do you see people like just not get right from the first time? Like what are the top mistakes out there?
Yeah, I think, well, our clients, they hire us, so that's a really good way of avoiding mistakes. No, what we see in the market definitely is that the obvious ones are still too much text on slides, and people not being able to really get that emphasis of the message on the slide, but writing out what they're actually telling. And especially now in online presenting, which we'll probably get back to later in this podcast as well. That is really painful to see and hurting your story. But one of the other things we're seeing is that people struggle to come up with a structure in their presentations, and people often start creating slides while they are thinking out a story instead of thinking of the structure first. So the result is sort of rambling on without a structure in a presentation, while that structure is so important for people to understand where you are and what you can expect as an audience. So that's the most seen mistake we're helping our clients with.
Yeah, so for 10 years, nothing changed on the slide end, still a lot of text. People moved it. By the way, I just got, I was late for that podcast, as Paul knows very well, but now everyone knows.
I wasn't going to tell that.
Yeah, we received one of those we received feedback from a potential customer, and they wanted to build a presentation that aimed at looking at and raising money, meaning an investor pitch. And they said to us that because we said, hey, we'll need a week for that one. Okay, so a week for us is not that, for a whole presentation. You can imagine that if you, and in the same way as you guys, when you kind of have experts in the area take a week from their time to build a presentation, you can imagine that is more or less the equivalent of a full month of somebody else, right? And they're still not going to get there at all. Now,
exactly.
Again and again, I don't know, maybe that's why I'm saying this, maybe because I'm looking for feedback on your end also. We got that feedback that these guys that are raising otherwise millions of euros, they are just very curious and very, how can I say it? They don't believe that the presentation can take 40 hours to be built. I was like, wow, you are looking for millions of euros and you are still questioning how important your presentation is and you want to build it for 3 hours? Yeah. Go ahead, man. I mean, go ahead. It's up completely your choice. So do you see that with the people around you in Amsterdam or with the customers that approach you guys?
Yes, definitely. And I think all people around the world that are in the presentation design realm or face that same challenge. And as an industry or as a market, we still have a lot of explaining to do on that end. And especially when working for bigger companies, my history is in advertising. I used to work at a big advertising agency. And if you look at budgeting, a lot of the big brands, they don't have a presentation budget set out. So often it comes out of different budgets. And what we see there is if you're able to spend a really large amount on communication, on marketing, and if you look at what actually is money that's being made in boardrooms, then it's so much wiser and important to also allocate budget for those moments, those key moments, because you can invest a lot in marketing and communication. But it's often in the boardroom or in a meeting room where the actual money is being earned, and invest in those presentations.
Where decisions are being made.
Exactly.
Let's put it this way. Yeah. So, by the way, that's a valid point. The budgets are not planned for presentation work at all. That is such a valid point, by the way. And even with the big customers out there, right? I mean, that's not a phenomenon just for small brands. It is with everybody.
Exactly. And I can see that people actually are getting better in creating better presentations, and often presentations are seen as something we can do ourselves, which is different to an online marketing campaign or a video ad or something like that, where you would hire an external company to do that for you. But in the meantime, I think people should understand that creating a presentation that really has impact or that can help you achieve your goal, it's worth the money to hire an expert who has done this 1,000 times.
Yeah. By the way, do you have anything on top of your head that reminds you of what happened and what was the result just because one presentation was successful? What were do you have any memories, like what are your most recent memories in regards to, hey, just because these guys or we helped them or somebody else helped them, just because their presentation and their preparation and the storytelling and everything that makes a great presentation great was on a top level, they did this, right? Do you have any of those success stories that are big time?
Yes, yeah. I think every year we try to come up with the number, sort of the ROI on the presentations that we've created, which is often hard because a lot of the presentation we created, it's the actual impact is not as measurable as you would like. But the most measurable form of that is successful pitches, successful investor decks. So those cases are best expressed in for example, large investments that went through, or pitches that we won. And what we really try to be is not only a presentation designer, a company that makes your slide looks better, but actually we're interested in what your objective is, and we want to partner with you in making sure you reach that objective with the presentation. And we have lots of examples from for example, a large energy company who is trying to attract new clients in e-mobility, which we help land large customers. We have a nice case study on that. But also, yeah, I also like the smaller stories that aren't necessarily based on money, but where we can help to make a point or to explain something. One of the largest coffee brands in the world, we help them to explain what is the journey that a coffee bean makes from the crop to your cup, and seeing and being able to empower our client with telling that story. I think that is almost as that's definitely as rewarding as a big pitch one or a big financing.
So 2 lessons up until now before we move to the new world, that's the virtual world. First of all, if you are the marketing manager and you're responsible for your marketing, for the marketing budget next year, try to think of allocating also at least a little bit for that, for presentation work, communication work. It will pay off. All right, it will pay off.
Definitely.
And second lesson, obviously here, hey, presentations when done well, they can do some damage. I mean, we have seen it, people have seen it, and everyone, by the way, has seen it. Like the commercial examples are Apple, which are very popular. Just look what happens because of one presentation. Every product gets sold out for an hour. And everything that you see happens because Tim Cook or whoever from Apple goes on stage or goes on a video today and presents you whatever they want to present, having, as you said, a goal in mind, right? And their goal is pure sales. In their case, but still it is valid business goal. You want somebody to buy a product, which is completely fine. But if you don't believe that presentations are powerful, just take a look at Apple's example, and you'll see what a weapon that could be. Like, that is a communication weapon. I mean, it is insane. Paul, a lot of things changed. Everything is virtual. How is it in Netherlands? Is it 1 year already?
Yeah, almost. Yeah, in March it will be.
Okay, so are you completely locked down? What was the case?
We can still have 2 guests over a day, which is great. All the schools are closed, as well as the daycare. So that's a big struggle for a lot of my colleagues and for me as well, actually. What we see is that 90% or even higher percentage of our clients is working from home at the moment.
Yeah, and because of that, we have virtual presentations, obviously. How do you see virtual presentations different? Like, what is that different compared to in person?
Yes, there are lots, and one of the important things to realize is that when we talk about a presentation, and you just mentioned Apple, and when we talk about a presentation, a lot of people instantly have that vision of someone on a stage in front of a big screen.
Yeah.
But for us, and it's probably the same for you as well, is that a much higher percentage of the presentations we are creating is actually given in a meeting room or in a boardroom. So then we're talking sales presentations or internal presentations. And
yep.
There is so much volume there that's now taken from the real world to the virtual world. So when we talk about online presenting and virtual presenting, it's good to make that differentiation between a meeting or an event. And both are struggling at the moment. And one of the biggest things that we've learned in the past 10 months is that what we see is that screen sharing, something that a lot of companies are doing, that a lot of people are doing the entire day. We actually feel that screen sharing is not working as a presentation solution. What we see is that from the audience perspective, and then I'm talking about a meeting. From the audience perspective, it's really hard to have a conversation with someone who's presenting to you. So what you start doing, and what we've seen is that people start reading the slides, and that's actually not what we want. What we want is that a slide or the presentation that's used to be behind you on the screen is actually putting emphasis on what you're telling. So when you are diminished to that small box in the bottom right corner, you stop telling a story, but 90% of your screen is covered by your slide. And people start multitasking because they have the slide and they don't get locked in because they don't have to look at you. They have to look at the slide, and you see those eyes going all over the screen, and that moment, you know, you've lost them. Because they're only listening to your audio, they're not looking at your face, and they don't feel obliged to actually listen to you. So they start looking at their phone, checking their calendar, replying to emails. Actually, from the presenter's perspective, it's also really hard to have that conversation. So a lot of presenters who are good presenters now also start reading off their slides, because when they share their screen, they don't see the audience. They see that big slide in front of them. So they are forgetting who they're actually talking to, and you lose the conversation. And that conversation is so important during a meeting. So that's the most impactful change that we see right now. And of course, we thought of some solutions for this as well.
Let us know.
What we see on the meeting end is that we are starting to use other software that allows you to blend your content with you as a presenter. So instead of being a box at the bottom of your screen, the content is actually around you. So some software that we're using is Prezi Video. There is another software which has the amazing name. Try to Google that. It's MMHMM. And
we are going to put that in the show notes, by the way, so that people don't look for it. Because the first time when I heard that there is a new presentation software, and I was like, what's the name? They're like, I'm like, what? Like,
exactly.
The name is And I was like, wow, that's creative. I mean, that is unusual. Okay.
It is.
So Prezi Video, what else?
Yeah, what we're now seeing as well is that in news items or broadcasting from TV shows, this is actually a technique that has been used for a really long time. So we're also looking into broadcasting software that is being used for streaming as well, which offers the same capabilities, but that is a little bit more pro featuring there as well.
For sure. Yeah.
One of the other things what we do as an alternative to screen sharing is actually starting and stopping sharing your screen. So what we do is that I'm telling a story, I'm having a conversation with my audience, but if I feel I come to a point where I need to explain a process, or if I need to show a product, or if I want to put more emphasis on it, Then actually I start sharing my screen and show the image. I explain it, and then I stop sharing my screen and continue my presentation. And that is for a lot of people, that is a completely different way of approaching a presentation, but it allows you to make that contact with your audience that you definitely need to make impact on.
And that's something that everyone can try. I mean, it's not that hard to stop the screen sharing for a second. Make your point, bring the screen share again, right? And move on. That's something that everyone that's listening can try the next time when they're presenting online, I think. That's not that hard. Yeah. Anything else on that end?
Yeah, one of the third solution that we're looking into and testing a lot with is using a second screen for your presentation. So we're trying to mimic the situation where you are a presenter, you're in the room, and you have a screen with you, a computer screen or a TV or a display. So what we're now doing is that we try to use a second screen. So for example, everyone has a second screen in their pocket, the mobile phone. So what we now are testing with is showing the content on the mobile phone while I'm hosting a presentation through my laptop. So that brings you much closer to the experience of having a presenter at one point and having the content at a different point. There's also one other upside of that, and that's that people can't start multitasking on their phone because their phone is actually the presentation. So that's a good upside of that as well.
Yeah, and by the way, that is also, it's a very interesting thing here. I don't know what you're seeing with the business, the people that you train and that you're working with on the training effort, but people are like, yeah, but I don't have a second screen. I'm like, you're going to be presenting for the next 1 year and you're trying to sell whatever product or your idea even. Why don't you think of getting one? Like, I understand that you don't have one, but there is also secondhand stuff. Like, just buy something cheap. Like, don't invest for 27-inch 5K, 4K, crazy Dell, whatever. Just even the basic ones.
Sure. Yeah, and it also helps you to as a presenter as well to have that second screen there. It's not about the resolution or quality, but it's more of also creating that barrier for yourself and understanding that you're the presenter and that your content is somewhere else instead of trying to cram that in one screen.
But you also can use it as a presenter view. I mean,
yes,
you can utilize the presenter view very powerfully this way.
Yes, agreed. Yeah.
Yeah. Because many people are like, have you seen those questions nowadays on the web or with your customers? One of the most often asked questions with our customers is, I have one screen, can I pull the presenter view?
Yeah.
Because I need to see. I'm like, well, depends. Like, what platform are you using? Cisco WebEx. Okay, you can. Yeah. So you can, like, these questions show up so often nowadays. Yeah. But with two screens, it's flawless. Well, I have two screens here, and it's just super easy. I mean,
I've seen setups with a lot of yellow sticky notes on screens with presenter notes as well. Really? So,
oh wow! At least the person cared, you know.
Exactly.
The person cared. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah. So that was zooming in on meetings. So presentation for meetings, and I said events is a completely different process and different thing you're trying to achieve. So often during an event, you're not focusing on a conversation, but you're much more focusing on a monologue and conveying your message in that way. So we still feel that it's important to not use screen sharing for virtual events either, because there you need to maintain that connection as well, but you're also trying to give an inspiring story. So there we also really want to challenge people to come up with a solution that's different, that's more unique, and that also doesn't shrink you to that small box, but that empowers your message. So yeah, by the way, even for events.
Yeah, by the way, I want to interrupt you here because you mentioned all of the things that you're saying are great, and you also mentioned Prezi video, right? Yes. We had Spencer, by the way, from Prezi on the podcast a few episodes ago, but I'm not sure that everyone who is listening to this episode actually consumed the one with Spencer, and not that many people know about Prezi video. can like 1 or 2 sentences so that people get context. Hey, what is Prezi video? Because you make a great point of not sharing the screen and kind of having something completely different, unique. What is Prezi video?
Yes, well, let me start off by, if you haven't heard the podcast of Spencer, it's definitely worth checking out. Yes, Prezi Video is a presentation software that allows your content to be in the same screen as you are. So picture me as a talking head, and if I want to tell you something about a product, I don't have to share my screen, but I can show that product in the same environment as I am. I can show that next to myself. And the upside of having your content in the same screen as you as a presenter is that people don't have to look at 2 places at once, but they only look at you, and you can add content that adds to your story. And that makes it super powerful for online presenting.
Yeah, for everyone who is driving a car right now, if you are driving a car, I don't know whether when you go back at home, Google YouTube Prezi video and check this product out. Spencer is also going to be part of the conference and will showcase for 30 or 40 minutes only how Prezi video works. And he's going to do a rough kind of detailed explanation of how do you build this stuff, because it's really fascinating. When I saw it the first time, I was like, okay, Prezi, like, this is nice. That is nice. And they, by the way, I think they actually released it before COVID. Like
Yes.
Right? They really, yeah.
It has been out for quite a while, and obviously now in this situation there is a lot of focus, because it changes the presentation experience really drastically, and try working with it, because you'll learn that for online presenting it's so much more powerful than what you are used to do.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on, any other advice on the virtual end for the conference speaker, for the person who is invited to the events? Anything else there?
Well, of course, it really depends on there. I think there are great companies offering. You see a big shift in the event agency world as well. Obviously, they're struggling and trying to create similar experiences to live events. And there are some really cool examples out there where you feel that the presenter is actually on a stage and that the audience is actually in the room. And yeah, we're seeing a lot of cool examples of virtual meetings and virtual panels. And there is just that's the interesting thing of this painful and horrible situation, that there are upsides in the fact that it's also boosting innovation in this virtual presentation realm as well. And I think that innovation is really speeding up because of this as well. Prezi Video being a good example of it, but also the capabilities of Zoom and Teams, and for events, there's a lot of cool stuff out there.
Yeah, those guys are pushing themselves constantly. I mean, Zoom is, when I see how they update their software, it's like every week. I'm like, these guys are aggressive. Let's put it this way. Pushing updates every week in a tool like Zoom is, by the way, from the software point of view, that is impressive stuff.
It definitely is.
That is impressive. Okay, fine. Anything else on the virtual end, or should we move to something that's obviously very important to me and probably very interesting and hopefully very interesting for the audience that's listening, which is the conference. You're going to deliver a session on design. At the conference, I approached you guys and said, hey, fans from afar, obviously we know what you guys are doing. You were probably one of the first agencies that we reached out in globally in the world and say, hey, we're doing this crazy try to make a presentation event. We are trying to build something that no one has done before, on the level that no one has done it, with the speakers that no one has seen at the same place during the COVID, on the presentation skills topic, and an online event. And you were like super all in immediately to jump in and help. What is the session that you are delivering? It has a very, how can I say it, very interesting name even, but what are you going to cover during this? Like, what can people expect during the session?
Yes, so I'm very honored to be there. I'll host a 40-minute talk, and I will talk about the commonalities between slide design and home cooking. So what I will be talking about is a recipe for successful slides. Hopefully,
Obviously, obviously. Are there a lot of similarities between home cooking and slide design?
more than you would expect. And
Really, that's interesting.
actually, the idea came from the thought that almost everyone who has a desk job is creating presentations, but almost no one is a trained presentation designer or storyteller. And so what we do is we hire external experts for all sorts of services professionally. However, for slide design, we think we can do that ourselves. And this used to be a way of selling our service, hire an expert, so hire us. But more and more we realize that this is actually not always necessary. And I want to explain to everyone that everyone can create a good presentation. And that sparked the idea of think of it as cooking a meal. Almost everyone can do it. Sure, some better than others, but everyone can cook because there are recipes to follow and there are people that show you how to do it. It just depends on the level of quality that you want to achieve and the situation you're in, just like with presentations as well.
Haven't thought about that one, but it makes so much sense. Even I can cook, by the way. I can do a sandwich or just
Nice. What's your signature dish?
I don't have any. Let's not get into that one. My signature dish are French fries, which my girlfriend will say you have never done those for me. So, which is scary.
Stay away from that.
Every single time when I'm like, when I'm asking her to cook something, and she's like, "When are you going to cook? You promised me that someday you'll do those French fries." And it's now so many years that she still hasn't seen those. So yeah, I'm not that experienced in cooking. I'm a complete consumer though, and I appreciate food and great food, by the way.
Well, that's good. That's good. Well, yeah. It's funny you mentioned the French fries. So for example, to maybe better explain what I'm talking about is that an internal team update on Wednesday morning, for example, I think that's comparable to heating up a microwave pizza. But a quarterly update to the board, for example, or is much more like making dinner for your parents-in-law, or something that you at least want to follow a recipe to create something to do that well.
You need to step up a bit, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. So and let's say you're giving a presentation to your entire company, or if you're launching a new product. You probably don't want to cook that yourself, but you want to let an expert handle this, and that's what I want to explain. So what I want to talk about is that what to look out for and how to approach different presentation situations, and what ingredients to use when. I'll talk about the ingredients that make up a good presentation, whether it's a pepperoni pizza or a gourmet meal, and I will probably also throw in some psychology on color, fonts, use of images. I also will get down to the presentation insights as well.
And you also have someone else from the team joining for not a session, but a masterclass. We already had him on. Had Martin on the podcast. He explained a little bit. Again, I don't know whether or not people have heard that episode, because we talked a lot about design. He did internship at Apple, which was nice for him, I think. So we talked a lot about that stuff. But for those of the people that haven't heard Martin talking about the masterclass, that is, I think there are just a few tickets left now. What is he going to cover? Like just an overview for people to know.
Yeah, Martin, who is our trainer, is well. Actually, if you're done listening to the podcast of Spencer, listen to Martin one, and Martin is going to cover the most fundamental principles of slide design, the power of a well-built template, how to deal with bullet points, with is a really practical and really recognizable training element in that as well. But he's also going to explain what to visualize on a slide, and he's wrapped this in the 7 building blocks of a strong design, and that will make for a really practical interesting session.
Yeah, he, by the way, promised that we are not even going to talk about PowerPoint, which was like, I was like, oh, and let's do that. I mean,
Exactly.
many people are like, oh no, we need to do PowerPoint or Apple Keynote. No. Design doesn't start in those tools.
No, exactly. That's what YouTube is for. People can find that information themselves. It's much more to learn how to express a story visually, but it's really practical as well. You will learn a lot from him. I will guarantee that.
Perfect. One question that I don't know whether or not you are aware about it, but we started asking people in the last 20 episodes or so, whether or not they have somebody that they know or that they have seen that made such a great impression on them. Maybe that's also a team member. You don't know, like you never know, that we should get as a next guest on our podcast. Do you have a name of somebody from the business world, from your team, from the people that you work with, from whoever? Like, is there somebody on top of your head that you are like, this guy is really, or this guy is super interesting when we talk about presentations because they wrote a book on it, or I mean, whatever. Like, do you have somebody that you would recommend us getting here and talk about presentations?
Yeah, I think one name that definitely comes to mind is actually a client of ours.
All right.
And he has the most interesting role ever. So you probably have heard of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yep, I think so. Yeah.
Well, compare his role to working for that company. He is the evangelist of a company that is called Tony Chocolonely. And I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it's chocolate that's being made in the Netherlands. A company with a important purpose, and what they're trying to achieve is to make chocolate bars slave-free. And why this person comes to mind immediately is because he's one of the better presenters that we've worked with. He knows how to tell a story, and his work is actually to tell Tony's Chocolonely story and spread it across the world on stages. So really experienced presenter, and a story about chocolate, which everyone loves, and also with a purpose that is really meaningful as well.
Okay, you need to introduce us to this person, because if he's talking about chocolate and mixes it with presentations, I mean, that's a formula for success here.
It is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So where can people find more about what you guys are doing, and what is also the best way for them to connect with you?
So visit mrpresident.com, our website, and that's President spelled with a Z. If you want to look at behind the scenes, check out our Instagram, Mr. President, as well, for behind the scenes. There were a lot of images on the office. We have an amazing office in an old church in Amsterdam, which we share with the Amsterdam Philharmonics.
All right.
So if you want to see more on that as well, check out our Instagram.
Do you still keep the office? Do you still have it?
Yeah, we still have the office, but we will repurpose it into a place that's much more about meeting people, about inspiring, than it is for working 5 days a week in.
Wow, okay, that's an interesting plan. And what is the best place for people to connect with you? Is it LinkedIn?
Sure. Yeah, look me up on LinkedIn, or look at Mr. President Company or Paul van Hattem at LinkedIn as well.
Brilliant. So I'll make sure that we link the website, we'll link the Instagram profile of the company, obviously, and we will link, take a look, listen to this one. We will link your LinkedIn profile.
Sounds good.
So make sure everyone that's listening to this one, take a look at the show notes. Everything will be there. Paul, thanks for joining, man. That was fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. We can obviously, as we say to every single person that joined us, we can talk about presentations for hours and hours, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, because we're that passionate, obviously, about that topic. And we get angry when we see people not caring. And we're like, how can you spend 1 hour on that? Like, do you understand how important? Anyway, we can talk a lot about that. But again, as with every episode, we end with, hey, guys, whoever is listening, if you have any question, shoot us a message on any social media platform, and I'll make sure that I'll tag Paul, and both of us will reply and help you out. Right? No worries whatsoever. Paul, are you going to help out?
Definitely help out. Yeah, I'm looking very much forward to connecting and meeting on the conference as well.
Yeah, absolutely. In the meantime, also take a look at 356labs.com together with the website of Mr. President, obviously .com. It's .com. Take a look at what we are also doing. Many people say we are 365 Labs. No, you're listening to the podcast of 356 Labs. Even one of our new hires is actually today told me, so what is the logo of 365 Labs that we're going to use? I'm like, it's you're working for another company, right? So anyway, take a look at what we can help you with, or your company with. We also work on storytelling, on the design and the delivery part, and of course, Present to Succeed. Paul will be there, Martin will be there, a lot more incredible people from the industry will be there. Present2succeed.com. Take a look at it. If you still don't have a ticket, book it, get it right now. Thanks for listening, and in case you found this episode useful, subscribe to the podcast, and why not even leave us a review on iTunes, as it's the most popular podcasting platform right now, or share it with a friend. We would appreciate it. Thanks again, and see you in the next one. Bye.